Now we're going to be looking about logical operations, and we're going to start with our if statement. Now, an if statement is a type of statement that is used to determine if an expression is true or let's put it this way. Okay, an if statement is used when you want to have an argument and an expression that is being executed if such an argument is true. Okay, like for instance, first of all, let me do a save as here, and now we're talking of if.php. I'll save that, and I'm gonna delete this. So we have we can say today is Monday. Today is Monday. Okay, so if today is Monday, say I love Monday. Okay, but if it's not Monday, do nothing. That is if statement. Okay, so let's quickly look at how that works in PHP. So you use the word if, then you open a bracket. Now what goes inside a bracket becomes the argument of the bracket. Okay, so let's say if 1 is equal to 2, then you open a curly brace and close a curly brace. Now the argument goes into the curly brace. Okay, sorry, the statement goes into the curly brace. The argument goes into the bracket while the statement goes into the curly brace. Now let's say if 1 is equal to 2, now what will you do? Echo I love this number. Okay, now let's save this and see what we're going to get in our browser. So let's say if.php error on line 7. Let's see what is happening there. Okay, sorry, the equal to sign in PHP is not 1 equal to. The 1 equal to means assignment. Okay, it's used to assign a value to a variable. Okay, so the equal to sign in PHP is double equal to. That's my bad, sorry about that. So now let's refresh and say, you see it did nothing because 1 is not equal to 2, so it did not echo what I asked it to. But in some cases, now let's delete 1 and add this. Now this is not equal to, and let's refresh that and see it echoed I love this number because 1 is not equal to 2. Okay, so you can also do that for variables. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this, add a break tag here, and I'm going to first assign 2 variables. Let's say var1 is 5 and var2 is 8. Okay, so let's say if var1 is less than, is that greater than var2 echo I love this number. Okay, so let's check that. Before we do that, let's put our semicolon here so we won't get an error. Okay, so refresh and you see I love this number. Okay, save that and refresh. Now you see nothing because variable 1, which is 5, is not greater than variable 2. But now if we happen to change it and say less than, and let's refresh that, and you see I love what? This number. Okay, so that is how the if statement works. So in our next video we'll be looking at if else statement. Now what happens if we say variable 1 is greater than variable 2? Now we check that and we discover it echoed nothing. And then now the question is, what if you wanted to echo something when the value is not true? Just give a default value or something else that happens or that it executes if the original result is not true. Okay, so we're going to be looking at if else statement in our very next video. Now we're going to talk about the if else statements, and like I said, the if else statement, the else comes in if you want to give a statement for what will happen if a statement is false. Okay, so like in this case, we say if variable 1 is greater than variable 2, echo I love this number. Now what if it's not greater? Like in this case, it's not greater. That means it will not echo anything. So you can as well say else. Okay, that's how it's been written, and then you open a curly brace, and then you tell it what to do. Echo this is false. Okay, so we can just quickly check that, and you see this is false. Instead of echoing nothing or displaying nothing on the screen, at least you know that it displays the sentence or the statement that negates what the logical expression. Okay, so that is how if else statements work. Now we're going to take some other examples and let's see how we're going to do that. Now I'm going to set some other variables here. Let's say variable a is equal to 3, variable b is equal to 5, variable c is equal to 9, and we want to write an if else statement using some logical operations, some mathematical connectives. So now it's going to be like this: if variable a is greater than variable b, and the and variable is written like this, okay, and variable b is less than 9, sorry, that's variable c, which is 9. Now want it to do something. Okay, now echo this is the first connective. Okay, else echo this is not true. Okay, now let's see how that's going to work. Now let's explain it. Now a is 3, b is 5, and c is 9. Now the and statement says the both conditions must be true for it to be true. Okay, now a is greater than b, which is false in this case, and b is less than 5, which is true. Now it's not going to echo the first statement, it's going to echo the second one, because the and statement says the both statement must be true. Now let's refresh that and see what we get. Now you see this is not true. Let me quickly put a BR tag there so that we'll understand what we're doing. Okay, now let's do that again. Now you see this is not true. Now that's because the and logical connective says the both statement must be true. Now if I happen to change this to less than sign, you discover that the statement here will change because the both statements now are true. Okay, let's try for or. We'll try that for or. I'll copy the whole statement again, and let's echo a BR tag quickly. I'll paste that there. This time around it will be or, and the symbol is written like this. Okay, now a is less than b, or b is less than c. Now the or statement say at least one of the statement must be true for the whole statement to be true. Now in this case the both statements are true. Okay, so that means this statement will be true. Now let's try that and see. Now you see this is the first connective. Now if I happen to change 1 to the greater than sign, you see the answer remains like that. Now if I change this one to, it now changed to give you the else part of the statement. Okay, let me save that. So you see this is not true. Now that is because the both statements are what? False. So that is how the logical connectives work. At times you might want to have 3 statements inside an if, and that is only possible if you know about the else if statement. So I will quickly do a save as here, and this will be if else if .php. Now we'll still work on this. This will be very brief. Now on this we're going to add another statement. We'll change this to else if, and here we'll have an else, final else. This will be else echo this is nice. Okay, now but before then we'll have to do something. Now this will be, let's remove this. If A is greater than B, echo this is the first connective. Else if B, or let's say if A is less than B, echo this is not true. Okay, then else, that is if this is not true and this is not true, then echo this. As simple as it is. Okay, now let's see what that's going to give us. Now refresh that and we'll have this is not true. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change this to if else if .php, and I'm quickly going to remove all of this. I'm quickly going to remove this one also, and here it will be if else if. Okay, so here we'll have only the statements below. So let's refresh and see. Now this is the first connective. Now that one is for this, and I'm going to delete it. Let's focus on 1. Okay, so on refresh you say this is not true. Now when you go back to the code, you discover that A is less than B. That's why it echoed the second statement right here. Okay, now let's say this is the equal to, let's save that and see. Then it pushes you down to the next statement, which says this is nice. That means the first statement is not true, the second one is not true, then it echoed the final else statement. Now that's how an if else if statement works. The next we're going to be looking at switch statement. Now what really happens if you want to write a very long statement that have many else's? Like let's say for instance, let me do a save as there quickly, and let's call the switch. Save that. I'm gonna change this to switch also. Ctrl S and clean all of this. Now let's say you're testing for something and you want to check if C is equal to 9. You say if C is equal to 1, 2 this, else if C is equal to 2, 2 this, else if C is equal to 3, 2 this, and that would be kind of quite too bulky on your side. So that's a new easy and simpler method which is called the switch statement, and we're going to look at that right now. Now the switch statement arranges cases in switch. Okay, if it's the first one, it picks the switch and then it breaks the loop at that point. Okay, now let's look at what I'm talking about. Now it's written like this: switch, and then the variable, in this case we are writing, let's use variable C. Now the first thing you're going to have is case 1. Let's start with 0. Let's say case 0, and then a colon, then enter key, echo this is 0. Okay, then one thing about switch statement is it have a function called break. Now the break function, what it does is when you have a list of all of this, okay, let me just write it through. This is A. Now let's stop here for now. Let's delete this. And I'm gonna save that. Now when you check that in your browser, just switch, you discover that nothing is being outputted. Now the reason is because the number assigned to variable C is 9, and here there's no 9. Now when what you need is not in a list of your switch statement, let's add 9 quickly so you see what I'm talking about. 9, let's say 9. Now we'll save this and refresh. You discover that it says this is 9 now because 9 is involved. But when 9 is not involved, or if 9 is not involved, then you write a default. Now what a default is a default value that will be outputted for you or echoed out to the browser if either all the switch statements up here did not work. Okay, now it will output a default statement. Okay, so let's say the default is invalid number. Now let's refresh that and you see an invalid number. So there's always a default statement that is being echoed out to the browser if the other statements are not chosen or are not selected. Okay, so this is an example of how switch statements work. In our next video we'll be looking at loops, and loops is another very important part of PHP. But till then, see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now we are quickly going to look at loops. Now loops are PHP statements that continue to do something until a condition is met. Okay, so now I'm quickly going to do a save as here, and this will be while loop, no space there. Now there are 3 different types of loop that we're going to be looking at. The first one is going to be the while loop, and we're going to look at the for loop, and then the for each loop. Okay, so now we'll quickly look at the while loop. Now we'll set a variable. Let's pick one of those variables. Let's say while variable A is less than or equal to 10. Let's change variable A to 0 for now, so you better understand what I'm doing. Then now that is the argument. Okay, while variable A is less than or equal to 10, so echo A, and then we'll increment A Now what this simply means is, while variable a is less than or equal to 10, continue to echo the variable a, increment it, come back and continue doing it, loop it like that till you get to the number 10. Okay, now let's see if that's going to work out. We have the while loop.php, and we have 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Now we did not give a space. Okay, so if you want it to be spaced out, you're gonna echo a and concatenate it with a space and a comma and a space. Okay, so let's save that and let's refresh, and you see that our loop is perfectly showing on the screen. Okay, so that is how the while loop is being used, and that is how it works. That is how your while loop works. Okay, so in the next video we're going to treat another type of loop. Thanks for watching. Now, with a basic understanding of while loops, we're going to be treating for loops now. Now, for loops are very similar to the while loop, just that in for loop the arguments becomes 3 and the arguments all go into the brackets, and what stays in the curly braces is just the statement. Now let's look at what I'm talking about. So here we have for. Now the first thing you're going to get is the first argument, which is more like an initializing statement. Okay, so here we're going to assign a variable to, let's say, assign to 0, and then the second variable is asking you what it should be doing, or what it will keep testing till the condition will be met. So let's say here what we want is we want this to be a less than or equal to 10, and then the third one is the condition it will look at to continue to run the loop, which in our case what we have here is a plus plus. Now in our curly braces you have echo a, and there you go. Okay, I'm just gonna remove this from here, save that, do a save as, and this will be for loop. Save that, go to my browser, refresh, and for loop. Okay, and let's put the line 13. Okay, it shouldn't be a comma, it should be a semicolon. Sorry about that. Then we'll refresh it, and bam, there we go. Okay, so we echoed wrongly as well, so you'll get a result there. Okay, so that is how for loops is being written. Very similar to the while loop, as you can see, and you can add some other statement like if statement. You can still add some string functions, you know, when you're trying to write a project with it, but that's a basic example of how for loops looks like and how it works. So in the next video we'll be looking at for each loop, but for now, happy watching. Now we'll be looking at for each loops. For each loops works basically with arrays. So before we start, I'm going to do a save as. Now it's for each PHP, and I'm quickly going to create an array. Let's call it array, and we have an array here. We have 3 7 1 2 9. Okay, that should do. And now we want to use the for each loop. Okay, now the for each loop now says for each Okay, now for each array, what it does is it picks each element of an array and assign it to a variable, use it to do what it wants to do, and then bring it back to the array. Okay, so for each array as something else, so we'll find a variable and assign to it. Okay, let's get into doing. So for each array as, let's call it a different variable. Okay, so no, that's not it. So we're gonna ask it to echo row. Okay, let's check that in our browser. See, so we have for each for each.php right there. So you have 37129. Okay, now I did not separate mine, but if you want to separate it, you can decide to concatenate it with a space. Okay, you save that and then you refresh it right there. Okay, and then you have your array right there. You can also decide to echo it according to the position of the array and the key of the array, like 3 is in position 0, 7 position 1, like that. So to do that, we'll still come down and say for each. Okay, now we'll say for each array as, let's say position POS, and we use this. Now echo, okay, let's say echo pause, and we'll concatenate it with this, and concatenate it with a space, and then we'll still concatenate it with row. Okay, you can decide to concatenate it with a break tag if you want it to come down and down and down. Okay, so let's concatenate that. So concatenate it with a break tag, and then our delimiter goes in there. Okay, meanwhile, let's echo a break tag here. PR tag. So let's preview that in our browser and see what we're going to get. Okay, Control save there, and you see what I'm talking about. So it gives you the position of the array and the key element in the array. Okay, so the for each loops work basically with array, and I think we've kind of have a pretty good idea of how to use the loop, the for loop, the while loop, and the for each loop. Hello, welcome back. There are two things we're supposed to still look at with regards to loops, and the first one we're going to be talking about is continue. Okay, now what continue does is it loops, and then up to a point it just keeps it and continue. Okay, so let's get into the doing so that you understand what I'm talking about. I'm just going to delete all of this, and I'm do a save as. Then we have continue.php. Then right now we're going to quickly type a for each statement. Let's just get one of our for each statements. Okay, let's open that. For each. Now we have a for each statement right here. No, not for each. let's get a for loop. Okay, let's use a for loop. Now this is our for loop, and I'm just gonna copy this code right here and paste it here. Now we have a for loop that say our variable a is equal to 0 if it's less than or equal to 10, loop. Okay, so that's for the for loop. So right now what we're going to do is we want to use an if else statement to tell it something. Okay, now we're going to type it like this: if a is equal to 5, okay, if a is equal to 5, now what is it going to do? It should continue. Now what it's going to do is it's going to loop. When it gets to 5, it skips it and then continue counting. Okay, that's the meaning of what the continue stands for. So I'm just gonna save that. I'm going to my browser. Let's quickly power on our web. So we'll go to my browser, get my local hosts. Okay, there's our local host. Now we'll switch to continue. Now as you can see, it says 1 2 3 4. There is no 5. Okay, so it skipped 5 and then it continued counting from 6 up to 10. Now I'm going to concatenate that with a space so you get understand what I'm talking about the more. Now let's say echo this in concatenation with a space. Okay, and let's refresh that and see. Now you see what I'm talking about. So it does not have word 5. It got to 5, it skipped it, and then it continued counting. Okay, so that is it for continuing. In our next video, we'll be looking at break, which is going to be our final one on loop here. So study this, look at it one more time, get it custom to you. I'll see you in the next video. This time we're going to be talking about the break statement, and what the break statement does is it continues to loop until when it gets to a particular point it breaks out of the loop. Okay, so right now we're going to leave this one right here. We're just going to do a save as. Now we'll get the break.php and then we'll save that. Now we'll change this continue to break and see what is going to happen. Okay, let's save that, switch back to our browser, change this to break, and let's see what we're going to get. Now you discover that it counts from 0. Once it gets to 5, it does what? It broke the loop. Okay, it breaks the loop. So now another way to do that, another way to accomplish something like this is by telling it that you don't want to include a comma when it gets to 10. Now if for instance we loop this, now you discover that when it gets to 10, let's remove this if statement here. When it gets to 10, you see after the 10 it still puts a comma from our concatenation statement here. So now we want to tell it that when it gets to 10, or if it gets to 10, we don't want to see this comma because that is our last number. So we can also use the break statement there. Okay, so now let's try that and see what it gives us in our browser. So we say if variable a is equal to 10, okay, what we want to do, we want to break out of the loop, so break. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to echo the comma immediately after the if statement so that it understands what we're talking about very well. Okay, so let's refresh that and see. Now you see that after the 10 we have no comma there. So the break statement breaks out of a loop when it gets to a particular when it meets a particular criteria. So now we've talked about the 3 types of loop. We talked about continue, we've talked about break statements. So in our next section, we'll be looking at functions. We'll talk about what functions are. We'll look at how to define our own functions, and we'll talk about a lot of things. But for now, get accustomed to this, know how it works, and practice it very well. I'll see you in the next video.